Hey Kim, just looking at your email here about putting students into groups. I can walk you through how to do this, and um, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. But it looks like you're a fifth grade literacy, so we're going to go into fifth grade core, fifth grade literacy. Um, Now, the first thing we have to make sure is we have people enrolled. So it looks like we got people enrolled. Um, so there's more than one teacher. So there's a couple ways you can do this. The reason I was saying that about more than one teacher, if you put students into groups, you can just put your students into groups. But if both of you guys are reading the same novel and both of you would like the same two groups, but you don't want them to be the same group, what you can do is use what's called a grouping. And I'll walk you through that right now. So, a grouping is above a group. Let me grab the other teacher's name here. Han, if I remember right. Okay. And this, you can use this for more than one if you have a couple teacher or a few teachers. So we're going to go into groups. And the first thing we're going to do is you said you wanted two groups and you wanted them to be the bad beginning. So we're going to create a group. So notice I went to administration, users, and groups. So I'm going to create a group, and this group is going to be called the bad beginning. Now, if you set this up ahead of time, so if you set this up before people get into the course, you can have them put themselves in the right group based on what password you give them. If this is going to be a situation where there's different groups at different times of the semester based on the novel you're reading, you wouldn't want to do that. Instead, what you'd want to do is create all of the groups and then put kids in the groups as needed. So this one we're going to call the bad beginning. And then we're going to create another group. And the other one is BFG. So it'll be our group name here. So you have your two groups here. If all you want is for you to have these two different groups, what you would do is click Add Remove Users. Then over here, you would search the kids' names. So there's too many for them to show up. So what you'd have to do is, I don't know anybody's name in here. Anybody start with an F? Okay. So if any of these students, you just click on the one. So you'd click on Sydney Foster and click Add. Click on Carter Fry and click Add. You can hold down and click more than one. But with 140 kids, you've got quite a few kids to go through to do it, since they don't all show up right here. Another way to go back and so this is just if you want to have two groups. If another teacher wants to have the same two groups as you, you're going to have to make a grouping. And the grouping is going to be, I usually use your last name. So, excuse me, let's say this grouping is going to be Han. And then this grouping, KNAPP. Now that you have these groupings, what you can do is you can select what groups you would like to be in there. So here, if you clicked on this button, I want both of these to be in there. So now you can see here, you have two groups and they're in there. If you're going to do it this way, what I would do is in your group, so like right here, I would maybe put a K either before or after so that you know that it's yours. And then you're going to want to make another group. BFGH. And then you make another one with the bad beginning H. And the reason you'd want to do this is because now in your groupings, you can put the K's with yours, you can put the H's with Han. If you don't put those tags on it, those letters on it, it's not a big deal. You'll just have to make sure you know which BFG group you pulled over. Since they'd have the same name, it would be somewhat difficult to get that. So here for Han, we're going to grab both of these. So now those two groups are Han's, these two groups are yours. If I go into my groups, now I can say, all right, I'm going to put, go back to F, I'm going to put these two students in this group, BFGH, whereas if I go into the other group, then I would be putting in for U for the K. That's how you put students in groups once they're already in your class. This is a manual process. Like I said, you can automate this if you do this ahead of time, but if you're going to be switching groups, if you're going to be going back and forth in groups, you may want to be careful with that. Another thing that you could do, so let's say you're going to do another novel. So I'm going to also create a group that's called 5th grade. What did I read in 5th grade? Is that where the red fern grows? So I might set up a group that's called this. So now a student could be a part of BFGK. Later in the semester, later in the year, they're going to read a different book. You're going to also populate this group with BFG, where the red fern grows kids. You could be a part of this group and a part of this group. That you can be a part of as many groups as you need. Where that comes in handy is now, let me go back to your, I guess I should delete that one. I'll leave those other 4 in there just so you can see how this works. And it'll be in there when you go in to mess around with this. Now if I go into an assignment, there we go, that makes sense. If you go into an assignment, what you can do right here, you can separate by who you would like to see. So now there's been 2 submissions. You can click and look at those submissions, but you're not interested in anybody in Han's class. You're only interested in people from the bad beginning K. So you just click there, and now there's no kids in there, but once you had that group set up, you would have multiple submissions there. The grouping, so the reason that I put those Ks on there so you could have a grouping, the reason a grouping is helpful is you can organize courses based on a grouping. So if you want your kids to see something, but the other teacher, Han, does not want his kids to see it, you can put a resource in there and then only make it available. So I'll go back and I'll do it on this one quick. So here's a resource that's available. Let's say you want to give them an additional resource that Han doesn't think is pertinent. What you would do is when you make the assignment or when you make the resource, whatever it is, in your settings for the resource, I'm just going to use your assignment, but you could use a resource. In your settings here, you can restrict access, and you can say only people that have the grouping of NAP can see this resource. So now anybody in Han's groups wouldn't even see that resource. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm not going to save that one. But that's the reason you have those groupings set up, so you have a little bit of control of who sees what. Hopefully that answers your question. I know I moved quickly there. Feel free to go back through and see where I was clicking. I'll put the animations on so you can see when I clicked. If you have any other questions, as always, let me know. Take care.